So what is going on, guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video where today I thought we'd go back in time and take a look at some old concept art from COD Zombies. There are some from BO1, BO2, we even have BO4 in here. I guarantee some of these you guys would have never seen before, and they're interesting because they give us a different look of how Treyarch envisioned these maps to look like before they released. Of course, before making the maps they have to draw up their ideas, what they envision it's going to look like in game. These are from multiple different artists who worked for Treyarch or worked alongside them, and besides from this there is so much art that we haven't gotten. This is only the stuff that was released to the public. I can imagine that there are hundreds, maybe thousands of concept artworks for other maps, because this is just a few of them, but it's all I could find. But I imagine there's so much more hidden within Treyarch's files. It's just something I'd love to see one day, because it's really interesting seeing what Treyarch wanted the maps to look like compared to what they actually came out to be. So anyway, first off, taking it all the way back to Kino Der Toten. As far as I'm aware, these were released years later in like 2012, I think. Kino came out in 2010, it was one of the base maps for BO1, but you can see here we have multiple different images. The first concept is very clearly the theatre, however it looks like it's not as trashed as we would see in game. The seats look like they're in pretty good condition. Of course we have these zombies. In the background, what's interesting, what's different is there seems to be a movie going on. It's like they're showing a film, whereas in the actual map we can't find film reels, but they're just of little short clips. So maybe initially Treyarch were intending on showing films or short movies, but it's interesting to see how different the concept of the theatre was compared to it in the actual game. And as you would imagine, as with every game, movie or whatever it is, whatever you're making a concept for, there's pretty much always going to be changes between that and the final version. That's the whole point of a concept. But the next one is of the starting room. The main difference you may or may not notice here is the lack of the teleporter. There is no teleporter pad on the floor, so clearly that wasn't in their initial vision. And remember that Kino was actually planned to be a map for World at War zombies, so perhaps that's the reason why we don't see a teleporter pad. But apart from that, the starting room doesn't look too different to me, just going off the top of my head. The next one here, we can see the staircase. I'm not too sure what this area is called in the map, but again, looks pretty similar to how it is. There is a lack of perk machines in these concepts. And then next off, we have the outside area. If you compare this one to how it looks in game, this is quite a bit different. We still have the sign. The roof in game though doesn't go all of the way across. The zombies actually jump down from there. And then we have this one right here, and finally there's also one for 5, because that was one of the base maps of BO1 as well, but it looks pretty similar to me to how it looks in game. You could probably expect that for 5 though, since the Pentagon was in the campaign, so they didn't have to change too much or come up with fresh ideas. They just ripped it straight from the campaign and put it straight into zombies. They would have just put a little bit of a twist on it to fit the zombies theme. But those are all of the Black Ops terminal art. I did say I want to show you all of what we have though, so let's continue. Now the next images again were posted in 2012. I'm not 100% sure who by or how these ones were obtained, but these were environmental concepts done by Lim Her. Both seem to be of Kino. We have this first one right here, and then the second one, to me, looks like the area between the starting room and the theatre if you go right. And the first one, if we go back to it, this is labelled as the theatre power room, which I believe is the area that you go to after the metal staircase once you go outside. These kind of do look different to the end product, but still, nevertheless, very creepy, especially with the cobwebs. I think these concepts are a little bit more scary than what Kino actually is. Now these next ones I'm about to show you are from both BO3 and I believe some BO2 are mixed in here as well. The first one you've all seen. I think there's actually a theme for the PlayStation. I'm not sure if they did it for the Xbox as well, but this was the concept art for Garrett Karovi. We've all seen this image before, and by the way, these were done by Daniel Cheng. The next one is of Origins. The description that he put for this one was, this is an early concept for Call of Duty Zombies Origins. This map was an epic diesel punk style first person shooter set in World War I. I painted over an early rough blackout using Photoshop. I've also included a video of the intro cinematic for this level. We've seen that, but the concept for Origins looks quite a bit different to how it is. First off, on the right, there is what looks to be a small village. We don't see this in game. We have the giant robot, the blimps, the planes, the portal to Argotha in the sky, the Pack-a-Punch area. There's also the generator stations. This is a super cool one, and actually does make me think how much better it would have been if there was the village. Imagine if we could go into that, even though Origins is a pretty big map anyway, but that would have been pretty epic. I think this is one of my favourite ones just because of how clean it looks. Another one which we've all seen before, this is concept for the Giant. I remember when we first released and we noticed the giant robot head in the background, everyone was going crazy, but the description for this is Black Ops 3 revisited the Darius map from Call of Duty World at War, but this map, called the Giant, was set in the winter with PS4 graphics. This early concept painting showed how the map could look covered in snow. This was painted in Photoshop over a screenshot from Darius. The next one is of Die Rise, which looks pretty similar to how it actually is. This is very clean. He says he painted meteors falling from the heavens, skyscrapers split in half, upside down, above a city in Asia. I don't think that's too far off how it actually looks. We also have Mob of the Dead, or Blood of the Dead. I think this one was actually done for Mob though, that is Alcatraz. And then moving on, the next one, which I've covered in a separate video, I think maybe a year or two ago. This is the original concept art for Nuketown Zombies. This one looks absolutely nothing like it does in game. This kind of has an old western theme to it, whereas the original Nuketown Zombies was in 2025, but of course it was being used before that. But it never had this old western theme to it. It looks absolutely nothing like this. Clearly this concept was just thrown straight out of the window, but if it did look like this, I wouldn't complain. I think it looks really neat. It's definitely a different take to all of the iterations that we've had. I don't know what would have been in the middle, what would have replaced the bus and the truck, maybe a horse carriage or something, and the same goes for the bunker. Would that have still been there? I don't think this map would have worked if we had Alpha Omega, because we had more story implemented at that point around Broken Arrow and the Americans, so since they worked here developing robots, I don't think, the robots futuristic, that setting would fit this old western theme. I think it may well have changed the story quite a bit. So perhaps that's the reason why they didn't go with this, because it didn't fit the story, but it's still cool to see nevertheless, and also how it's called Nuketown, not Nuketown. And then we have a couple for BO4, these are both for 9. These were actually released by Treyarch on the declassified video. It only had like 20,000 views, so not many people got to see it. But this is it right here, it is in one of the temples. We still have the perk machine on this one, which is pretty rare. They're not really included in these concepts, but it doesn't really seem changed. If you want to check out that video, I will link it down in the description. I might forget in editing, so just type Treyarch declassified and you'll find it. And then the final few are very interesting. Most of these are for Shadows of Evil. One of them is for Origins, we'll get into that one. And these were actually revealed to us on the COD Zombies 2017 calendar. I'm not too sure if you can actually buy it. If you can, let me know in the comments because I want this. But first off, we have Origins. I don't know why it says buried underneath, but this looks to be in the crazy place. And then we have 2 for Shadows of Evil. These are difficult to see because they're on the calendar, so they're pretty weird screenshots. But this one shows the underground area where the Pack-a-Punch is. This is very different to the end product. It's so much more lit up. The underground city is much more detailed. This looks epic compared to what we actually have. And also I don't know if there's a cipher hidden on this one, because on the wall there's actually some yellow language. I think that's the Apothicon language, so that may be an unsolved cipher, I'm not sure. But this one looks absolutely amazing. And then what's even better is the next one. Okay, we have the city, we've seen that, but in the background, in the sky, we have the giant Apothicons, but it looks different to what we see. This looks so much more scary. There's actually 2 of them. There's also another one in the background. Yeah, the one in game's cool, but this one is so much more epic, which you would expect for concepts. Drawing something down on paper or Photoshop, however these are done, is a lot easier than trying to recreate that in game. One last ones I did want to show you, although these ones I couldn't verify whether these were concepts for zombies. These are supposedly for BO2, or whether they're for the campaign or something else. For that reason I was going to leave them out, but I thought, you know what, just throw it in there. Maybe you guys could say in the comment section below. But the first image is this one. If this was from Zombies, I don't know where it would be from, since it's a concept. The final version could have looked totally different to this, which, well, clearly it did, because this isn't in Zombies. It is some underground tunnel area. The BO2 maps that we have is Transit, it's definitely not that. Die Rise, Mob of the Dead, Buried, and Origins. This is not any of those maps. And then the other concept is this. The closest this resembles is Die Rise, although it looks to be a shopping mall, whereas the map takes place in a skyscraper. This also looks like it could be from the campaign, so I don't know about that one. I just thought I'd throw it in at the end of the video, just because there are a few threads on it, but I can't find any proof of these two. So guys, there we go. That is it. That is all I have for today's video. I thought, let's go back and take a look at some old concepts, see how they turned out. Did they end up looking the same in game, or are they totally different? And if they are different, it's interesting to see how much. I think some of the concepts look cooler than what they actually turned out to be. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.